Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hi. Good morning. Hello. We're gonna get started in 2 minutes, so if you haven't found your seat yet, if you can come in, find a seat, 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, buenos dias, Santa Ana College. So I want to say welcome back, bienvenidos. It's incredible to see all of your faces, to see you in person, and I am super excited to share what has occurred and what we're looking forward to in the upcoming year. Now, before I continue, our conference theme is Equity at the Center, All Roads Lead to Completion and Student Success. I want to personally thank the faculty in the School of Continuing Ed, especially Professor Mercedes Lopez. They let me borrow that title to share my message and agenda with all of you today, because equity is at the center. Now, before I continue, I'd like to recognize a few people in the audience. Vice Chancellor Enrique Perez, Vice Chancellor Iris Ingram, Santiago Canyon College, their new PIO, Eugene Fields, Assistant Vice Chancellor of People and Culture, Alistair Winter, Chief Communication Officer, Dr. Chi Chung Kyung, Communication Specialist, Alexis Rios, Assistant Vice Chancellor, Jesse Gonzalez, Trustee Zeke Hernandez, and who will be sharing a few words in a minute is Chancellor Marvin Martinez. Now, before we bring up our distinguished guest and I share the message today, I want to remind us why we're here. I want to remind us why we celebrate. We are here for students. We are here for students in our local communities. But most importantly, when we see our students stay and complete, there is the value of the work we do as educators. So to put us back in that space, we're going to share the highlights from our commencement this year. Welcome to our 2023 Santa Ana College commencement.
2023, let's get going.
I graduated from Santa Ana College.
Graduating my AA degree.
Graduating my liberal arts degree, associates in occupational therapy assistant.
I'm excited for that next step.
Transferring to a university. Transfer as a child development teacher.
Get a job in athletic training.
To make a better life out of myself.
Congratulations, class of 2023. I'm so proud to call you a part of Santa Ana College's alumni.
Your tenacity and perseverance inspires me.
We're all different, but our dreams and aspirations have brought us together.
Being a first generation here was a little bit hard for me. I just didn't know I had the opportunity to complete my high school diploma till I walked into Santa Ana College.
I never imagined that graduating from college would be possible for me, let alone to be standing here on this stage as your valedictorian today. I'm 34, almost 34. I have 4 children, and I'm married to my high school sweetheart. And I decided to go back to school after a decade of being a stay-at-home mom. I feel like I'm in a dream.
Congratulations, graduating class of Santa Ana College. The formative education you received at SAC has set you on a path to reach anything you want, including the stars.
You are now prepared to be able to take on this world. Nothing makes us more proud than to see you successful.
We wish you much success on your achievements and much success in your bright, bright future.
This is just the beginning.
This is not the end, but the start of a new chapter to greater things.
Be grateful for everything and for everyone in your life.
When you feel there's no end in sight, keep going. It's worth every moment, and it's worth every tear. That is who we celebrate. That is whose lives we're here changing every day. And I'm so excited to share more. Now, as we continue with the program, I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. The Juaneño Band of Mission Indians, Ahachiman Nation, are the original inhabitants of what is now Orange County. This acknowledgement was affirmed on August 19, 1993 by the state of California in Assembly Joint Resolution number 48, and on March 7, 2006 by Orange County Resolution number 06-028. We are and continue to be the stewards of this land for the immemorial. The unceded Ahachiman traditional tribal territory extends from the Pacific Ocean to the west, including the southern Channel Islands of Catalina, San Nicolas and San Clemente, to parts of Los Angeles County to the north, including the village of Puvunga and California State University, Long Beach, to parts of Riverside County to the east, and to parts of Camp Pendleton to the south, including the villages of Panhi and Uchme. The Ahachiman would also like to acknowledge our surrounding tribal relatives that have been and continue to be caretakers of the lands of Southern California. The Chumash, Gabrielino, Serrano, Tataviam, Cahuilla, Luiseno, Cupeño, Chemehuevi, and the Kumeyai. Thank you for joining me in this land acknowledgement. Now, before I deliver my message, we'll bring up the distinguished guests, and I'd like to start with Chancellor Marvin Martinez, Chancellor of Rancho Santiago Community College District.
Thank you, Dr. Neri. Good morning, Santa Ana College. How you guys doing? Welcome back. It's great to have all of you here once again. Yesterday I reported at the board meeting that This year, by far, is one of the largest classes of new faculty that we've had here at Santa Ana College, as well as Santiago Canyon College. In fact, last year I reported that we hired a total of 8, combination of 8 full-time and long-term subs at the district. This year, 48. From 8 to 48, yes. So I know a little bit later we're going to formally introduce all the new faculty. I had a chance to meet some of you yesterday at the Faculty Institute. Great to see you all. Incredible diversity in many ways, as was stated yesterday by one of the Senate presidents. The new faculty that are coming become, in essence, the new leaders of tomorrow. And so we're really excited about having you here and the potential you bring to make us even greater than what we are today. So far, as a college, you guys are growing like there's no tomorrow. You know, in terms of staff, you know, yesterday I also reported the tremendous hiring growth that we've had. So just a couple statistics that I wanted to read to you. In the year 2021, we hired a little bit over there was a little bit over 3,000 people who applied for jobs at RSCCD. In the year 21-22, they jumped to a little bit over 10,000. Last year, that number went to over 16,000, and which means almost like a 60% growth over the previous year. We are on a hiring spree. We're hiring a lot of people. Why is that occurring? Because all of you are doing an incredible job of helping the campus grow. You are serving probably now more students than you ever have, even before COVID. My understanding this morning is that you have long lines still of students who are trying to sign up to be enrolled in classes. So what does that mean? That means we need to hire more staff. How do you sustain growth? You gotta have more faculty. You gotta have more classified. You gotta have more administration, because that's what it takes in order to support our students. It's just a matter of time before this room here becomes too small for all of you to meet. You're gonna have to find a bigger room. I mean, we probably need to set up a tent by the football field or something in order to be able to house all of you. But to me, this is just incredible stuff. You know, one of the areas that's also I wanted to acknowledge is also really growing for you tremendously is your continuing and adult education program. It is growing incredibly. We are an inch away from being the largest adult education program in the state. We are right on the heels of San Diego Community College District, and they know it, and they don't know how to handle it. But we're coming, and they can see us coming. You know, also, you know, one of the things that I talked about yesterday is that we certainly want to be able to continue to grow. We have to do that so that we can pay the bills and cover all the costs that we have, but also to help provide more access to the community. But this year, we're going to make a big push as it relates to transfer. Right before this, all of you went on your summer break, we were able to take a new transfer contract that we just signed off with UCLA. UCLA. Bruin fans, who are you? Where are the Bruin fans? We're going to do one with USC too, so don't worry, we're going to do one. But so the whole purpose of that contract is to specifically get more students from SAC to go to UCLA. That's really the bottom line. Last Friday, we met with UCI. We had a good long meeting, about 4 hours, in order to do the same thing with UCI, so that more students can go from SAC, more students also from SCC can go to UCI. And we feel that's important. We want our students to go to the best universities in the country. We will not settle for anything less. So as we go on this path in order to become a top transfer institution, we need more staff. So some of the staff we're going to need is we're going to need more counselors. We're going to need more counselors, everybody. Because we have so many students that will come to you. You will have in your transfer center UCLA and UCI in that center seeing students all the time. And they will not see students until they get through you as counselors and you're able to support them and put them on that path also to be able to transfer. I'm convinced that we're going to need not just 1 or 2 counselors, but you may have to increase your centers by close to 50+% in staff. You're going to have to grow it. I'm already in conversations with your Senate president here with Dr. Claire Coyne, with the Senate President at SEC, so that the Senate can also be on a path to see how we need to support this effort and how we need to be in a path in order to hire more counselors. We need to do it soon, folks. We can't wait to the year 2030. It's got to happen soon so that we can help students now. They're here today. They're here today. They're going to be in your classes Monday. And they are here because they also want to transfer. So I'm excited about the opportunities that we're going to have there. We also did a sign-off with Cal State Fullerton during the spring break, so we can also continue to increase the number of students that go to Cal State Fullerton. We want to do the same thing with Chapman, do the same thing with Cal State Long Beach, but it is a mission. And we know that it's a top of mission that we're going to need staff. So you'll hear a lot from us over the next year, really talking about what we need to do and how we need to move towards that effort. Here's my dream. My dream is that next time you Google and challenge yourself today, Google and type the top 10 community college districts who do the best job in transferring students. We will be in the top 2 or 3. That's my dream. And I think we don't have much more to go. We need additional staff, additional support. And I know that as a campus, you have the drive. That's why today you're the second largest in the state. Second largest college in the state. With adult debt, you're the second largest. And you are moving up so fast. And there isn't a day that doesn't go by when I don't get a phone call or a text asking, how is SAC doing this? What are you guys doing? What's working over there that's not working over here? Well, you know, it's who you are. And I've seen you and I watch you. And you are all about students. And I think that's where it starts. Let me conclude with a couple of other remarks. You know, this year we're going to begin also to have some serious discussions, again, about a potential new bond measure. Why is a new bond measure needed? Well, for those of you who haven't been to the auto tech and welding area, and if you haven't, go, because you'll see we need a new auto tech and welding building. We need some new facilities. Yes, we do. We need a brand new Centennial Education Center. By the way, your high schools, and I'm sure that your president will tell you a little bit later, they keep knocking on your door. It's just a matter of time before Garden Grove comes to you and says, we want a middle college high school on your campus. Can we have a middle college high school on your campus? You're becoming big, and so you know, we are highly motivated to get a bond measure passed so you can get some new facilities to be able to serve students in the best way that you can. So I'm excited about what this year has to bring. Right now you're number 2 in a lot of areas in the state. I think by this time next year you'll be number 1 in a number of areas. And I can't wait for that. So on that note, everyone, congratulations. Keep moving forward. Keep serving students the best way that you can. And we will get there together. Thank you, everybody.
Now, unfortunately, the board president, David Crockett, couldn't join us today. He was feeling ill, but he did send me a text this morning. He wishes you a warm welcome and good luck in the fall, and he looks forward to seeing you in person at a later time. Next, I'd like to bring up FARCID President Maury Berenbaum.
Thank you, President Neary. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the FARCID Executive Board, I'd like to welcome you to the fall 2023 semester. There's been a number of things that the Executive Board has been doing over the summer, not the least of which is a tentative agreement with the district regarding part-time health benefits. You'll receive more information about this later this week. And for the faculty in the audience, we plan to have a ratification vote next week to ratify it, hopefully, and then have the board approve it. Another big thing that's occurred over the summer is a lot of changes in the FARCID Executive Board. We have had some faculty leave the board. I'd like to thank Jim Isbell, Mark Smith, and Carrie Patton for their years of service. It's been an honor to work with you all. To introduce the 2023 FARCID Executive Board, when I call your name, if you're in the audience, please stand and be recognized. Matt Beiersdorf is your new Vice President for Santa Ana College. Tiffany Gauss is the new VP for Santiago Canyon College. Kelvin Leeds continues as Treasurer of Farset. Angela Guevara continues as our Secretary. Rudy Carrion and Sean Cummins continues as our members at large, and Karina Yvette is our new member at large. Jean Propia is our adjunct rep, and John Zarski is our new Rep Council Chair. Be nice to John, he got voluntold. Thank you to all who are serving, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you to all of you, faculty and staff, for the work that you do for our students, and may 2023 be a year filled with success and joy. Now it's my pleasure to introduce your Academic Senate President, Claire Coyne.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, it's awesome to see you all out there. Barely can see you, but I can see you. Thanks, Maury, for that welcome. And the Academic Senate does look very forward to working with our union over the next year. I want to take a moment to introduce our new executive team. As our Vice President for Culture and Engagement, that will be Professor Amberly Chamberlain. Our Vice President for Community Operations will be Dr. Marari Weber. And our historian will be Professor Andrew Barrios. Now, if this is your first convocation, whether you're classified, you're a faculty, or you're an administrator, stand on up. I just got chills seeing that. Now, is anyone out there, is this your last convocation? Should we have you stand up? No? Well, we thank you all. Yes, Dale. Well, welcome to those this is your first convocation, first of many, I hope, and we welcome you to our SAC family. Regardless of where you fall between your first and last convocation, we each have a purpose for being here at Santa Ana College. As I prepared to step into this role as Senate President, I did some light reading over the summer, and my esteemed colleague, Dr. Steve Bautista, recommended this book called Trust and Inspire. And if you get a chance to read it, I encourage you to do so. In it, the reader is asked to reflect on what's my why. Every person in this room has a why. Why do you come to work? Why are you here at SAC? Your contributions, whatever they may be, are connected to SAC's goal, SAC's purpose of inspiring, transforming, and empowering a diverse community of learners. I want to encourage you and challenge you to reflect on your why. I hope you come to see how your why can be an inspiration. Your why can transform one ways of thinking. Your why can empower others to affect change. May we all have a great fall 2023 semester. I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, my esteemed colleague, CSEA 579 President Tyler Johnson.
Okay, good morning. I think Claire's now my rival for speeches and applause now, and I don't approve of that. So I just wanted to welcome you all to a new fall term. Who's excited? Who's not? Okay, see, I combined it together so you could hide if you weren't excited. But no, so what I really wanted to get up here and talk to you all about real quick was a little bit about me and how it applies to this college. So I know you've heard a lot about my Southern family, but I've not really talked about my Midwestern family. So my dad's family are actually Finnish immigrants. So my family immigrated here in 1912, and Finnish immigrants came to America to escape political and religious persecution by the Russian Empire. And that is instilled in Finnish people today still, and there is a concept in Finland and among Finnish people that was instilled in me called sisu. Sisu is tenacity, it's grit. It doesn't really have a good analog in the English language, but it's a national spirit of endurance and hardship. And as I've worked here for 4 years, I've seen this college exhibit sisu. We are still here, we are still fighting, we're still growing. Our students are still here, they persevere, they carry on. Classified professionals do the same every day. Faculty, administrators are all here because we care. We're committed, and no matter what stands in our way, we will overcome that. We will endure that. So, in Finnish, minulla olen sisu means I have sisu. You all have sisu. And do be warned, if you do look up sisu on Google, there is a Finnish film that just came out about a Finnish man that kills Nazis, which is the ultimate definition of sisu, but hey. And so, with that, I would like to turn the microphone over to our amazing ASG president, Raven Kantaran.
Hello everyone, my name is Raven Kantaran. I am Santa Ana College's Associate Student Government ASG President. I am a sociology major and and my career goal is to be an elementary school teacher. I desire to work in education with our next generation and help them build a better future. Around the beginning of the spring semester of 2023, I began to experience housing insecurities. I had disclosed this to the previous ASG president, which was how I was introduced to the Thrive Center and their amazing staff, where they helped me with different resources, and luckily I am in the process of getting an apartment voucher. In lieu of these trials and tribulations, I've been inspired and encouraged to take on numerous leadership roles within ASG and ICC over the past 2 years. Being engaged with the campus has made me build my leadership skills, network with a variety of people in the political world, and most importantly, helped me get out of my shell. In addition to the involvement on campus, I was also elected to the Student Senate for California Community Colleges Regional Affairs Director for Region 8. With these experiences and the support on campus, I am proud to be the Santa Ana College ASG president and an advocate for students at the local, state, and national level. This year, I am proud to announce that SAC ASG has 29 members who will help me achieve the following priorities: expand on helping students with basic needs, help with community service projects, and much more. We look forward to supporting student life and leadership in building SAC's first leadership program, where we hope to continue to build our student body into successful, employable members of this community. In closing, ASG is passionate and dedicated into helping our student body be confident, well-informed, and civically engaged voters and members of society. I hope to create a safe and welcoming environment on campus for the students where they know that their voices and concerns are heard. Thank you, Dr. Neri and Santa Ana College, for continued support of ASG. And now I would like to welcome back Dr. Neri.
Can we get one more round of applause for our student leader? Now, before I get into my message, you know Amberly wouldn't let me go on unless we do a little bit of housekeeping. So this is this week's agenda, Professional Development Flex Week. I'd like to thank Amberly Chamberlain and all the staff and faculty who helped put this together. Amazing job. Thank you. So we're going to revisit today where we were and where we're about to go. So when we look at our 5-year history at Santa Ana College, at our peak, credit FTSs was over 15,300 FTSs, 15,340 FTSs in 17-18. And then it was 15,200, which is about a 1% decline. But look what happened, 14,800, and then we bottomed out in 2021, 21, 22, at a little over 12,000 FTSs. When we lose FTSs, that means we're losing about 3 to 5 students. We persevered through COVID. We persevered through economic uncertainty. But at the end of the day, when I arrived at Santa Ana College, I could feel the sacrifice. I could feel that between COVID, economics, and so forth, and multiple early retirements, that so many of you were doing so much more with less. So much more with less, just to serve our students. And you can see continuing education, 4,200 in 17-18, 3,655, 3,600, 4,000, 4,193. For the most part, school of continuing education stayed strong, but they also had an alternative attendance accounting that counted 2 methods and 2 censuses. So it helped boost FTSs. Now, where do you think we were in 22, 23? Any guesses? Okay. Let's see. 13,567. In the credit FTSs, that means credit FTSs came back about 1,500 FTSs strong, which is over 10%. But it's still not restored to our 17-18 numbers, which were over 15,000. And look at School of Continuing Ed at over 5,000 FTSs. Do you think that's a record year for continuing education? Should we ask Dr. Kennedy? Yes. It is a record year for School of Continuing Education for Santa Ana College's history of 170 years. And they're still going. And one of the reasons we can serve the top 100% is because of School of Continuing Education. Because we don't turn away students. We give them a second, third, 10th chance, and our doors are always open. So thanks to all of you. The growth was fast, it was double digits, and you put in so much sweat and tears. Look what Santa Ana College general fund dollars earned from the 22-23 growth, and because we grew out of the early retirement, we received back our early retirement dollars that we were going to contribute for 5 years. We only had to contribute for 2.5 years. We got the return of the early retirement at $4.3 million, and we got growth at $7.2 million. And that's not just, that is not only part of the growth. We get the remaining of the growth in spring. That means we have received $11.6 million because of your hard work. This is unheard of in a year, in a fiscal year. And who are we going to hire? Counselors, perfect. Faculty, classified professionals to sustain the growth. And what's interesting, we're not just looking back at Santa Ana College, we're looking back in our system. Our system laid out the vision for success from 2017 to 2022 and the governor's roadmap for 2022-27. It said we have to increase certificate completion, we have to increase degree completion, we have to increase transfer, we have to increase living wages for our students, we have to get them employed in our field of study, and most importantly, we have to close the equity gap. And we have to make sure they do it through a streamlined pathway with lower average units of completion and employability. So what's interesting is Santa Ana College, our educational master plan, aligned perfectly with the vision for success and the governor's goals. But COVID has posed a new normal for us. We aren't going back, but we have to move forward with artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. The truth is, we are now going to be teaching in a new way, online, hybrid, providing flexibilities and meeting students where they are. So to remind us of that story, I have an upcoming video of an actual SAC student story.
Life doesn't change overnight. It takes effort and dedication. It takes learning new skills and putting yourself and loved ones first. At Santa Ana College, you can complete a full-time accelerated online pathway program in just 2 years that's transfer ready. Programs include business administration, psychology, and political science. Choose a pathway that works for you and your personal goals, fits into your schedule, and changes your educational dreams into a well-deserved reality. Building the life you want means taking a first step. Start your journey at Santa Ana College. Where it leads is up to you.
So as you can see, this is a small video clip of one of our students who was a single father working as an auto mechanic while taking classes all online. And he did finish the degree and is now an owner of an auto shop while earning a living wage, which enabled him to purchase his first home. This story we put where every for-profit was advertising. University of Phoenix, Grand Canyon, New Hampshire, where students primarily from historically marginalized backgrounds or underrepresented groups are paying tens of thousands of dollars. We push that commercial in all their print and social media ads. Because you know why? General education with Santa Ana College is a little over $2,000, not $50,000. And as a result, our enrollments went up. So now that we agree that online is here to stay, hybrid is here to stay, flexibility is here to stay, let's talk about some FDS goals for 23-24 and 24-25. Like I said, we did an incredible job in 2023 with a record year for School of Continuing Education and up to 13,500 FDSs for the credit side. But the goal is to try to restore us back to the credit side in the 17, 18 numbers in the primary terms, Get back to 17, 18 credit FDSs, over 15,300. So we have a couple goals over a 2-year period that will get us there. 14,400 as the floor for this upcoming year, and a little over 15,000 for 24-25. Now, we know that School of Continuing Education hit over 5,000 FTSs. And it says 5,200 up there is their goal for 2 years in a row. But Dr. Kennedy doesn't want me to share this secret. He thinks he's going to get up in the high 5,000s or 6,000 FTSs, but don't tell him I told you. And the reason that's important, I'll talk about it a little later, and I'll talk about large college status. But we have historically, in order to get that designation, had to borrow, and I'll share a little more later. Okay. So large college status is when a college earns over 20,000 FTSs, and we get paid on those FTSs. But there's a difference of $1 million of ongoing, and if we can get back and restore our 20,000 FTSs, we get another $1 million on top of our growth. And in addition to that, this is the goal. In 17-18, when we had large college status, we borrowed from another summer. The goal is to earn the 20,000 FTSs in 1 academic year. But my colleagues hate when I say this. Enrollment is the easy part. Enrollment is the easy part. And even though most colleges are in decline, as many as 80 to 90%, some in decline 30 to 50%. That means they have been cut in half. I just got calls this week from colleagues who already did their step and column freezes and are discussing freezing vacant positions and or potentially layoffs. But still, enrollment is the easy part. The hard part, the equity agenda, is to get them to stay and complete. We have to get them to stay and complete. Now, to revisit of some of the strategies we talked about it, and I'll talk about some of the initiatives, is again, I'd like to revisit this chart because as one of the original guided pathways goals, the how has been the guided pathways. The what is the completion agenda. Complete degrees, complete certificates, complete 9 units in CTE, complete transfer, employment, and closing equity gaps. But see, this is the difference in the past. The tools were simply the restricted categoricals. We're one of the only college, I bet, in the system. We don't have to rely on the restricted categoricals. We can give that money back to student equity achievement. We can give that money back to guided pathways so they can innovate and scale and replicate the best practices. Why? Because we're one of the only colleges who grew and grew at that scale so we can institutionalize the solution that our students need to complete. And this is where I was really impressed when I arrived here in spring 2022. Our education master plan goals aligned perfectly with a completion agenda and the vision for success goals. And then a reflection, again, where the real work begins. Our obligation to get students to stay and complete a path, and while they're here, ensure they're learning. So what's interesting, as the chancellor said, we constantly get texts and calls about what we're doing here at Santa Ana College, as if it's some new thing. I mean, we do have a few new things, but the truth is, now that Chancellor Christians sent out her 2030 vision for the system, we're aligned. She started with the vision for success and governor's roadmap, and now has changed it to 3 strategic directions: equity and success, equity and access, and equity and support. She had 3 strategic directions with 17 actions and 6 outcomes and metrics. So we're not that far off from what the system is directing us to do. We're actually aligned pretty well. So in her directions, it's about baccalaureate attainment, equitable workforce and economic development, the future of learning. But in there, you can see 3 themes: adult learners, dual enrollment, and workforce training. You know, I'm not sure if you know, but the Chancellor's Office did visit here last fall for a listening tour. I have a feeling they took a few plays from the playbook of Santa Ana College. But then, don't tell the new Chancellor I said that. But the difference is, too many colleges rely on just the restricted categoricals. Too many colleges says we can't in this environment. We don't have the option to say we can't. We are the only system sanctioned by the Higher Education Act of 1965 that says we serve the top 100%. We give everyone a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a 10th chance. That we will always have our doors open. But our system tends to look at grants and restricted categoricals, when the whole time we should be looking at general funding and prioritizing what's in the student center formula, because when we secure resources, we can give those back to our students in the communities. So for 23-24, we're going to maximize the capacity of the student center funding formula while closing equity gaps, and I'll show you how we're going to put equity at the center. So just a reminder, part 1 is the base allocation. It's enrollments, FTSs, 70%. Part 2 is the supplemental allocation, 20%. But those are our Promise Grant students, those are our Pell Grant students, and those are our AB 540 students. Then the third part is 10%. And this is where we're going to talk about our completion agenda, our obligation to get our students to stay and complete. So I have already mentioned base allocation at 70% and our goal to get large college status in 1 academic year without having to borrow from summer by 2025, which is worth 70% of our allocation. But this is where the equity work begins. Again, most of my colleagues hate when I say this, but enrollments is the easy part. Getting their students to stay, complete, and change their lives is our true work. And then it doesn't stop there. We owe it to our local communities to reinvigorate them so they won't be gentrified. But give me a few years and I'll address that a little later, because we got to get them to stay and we got to get them to complete. So for supplemental allocation, we're going to talk about cash for credit, priority Pell, Promise program, and AB 540, and affinity programs. So we rolled out cash for credit in spring of 2022. We know they took more units, but that's not enough. Did they stay in their course? Were they successful in passing their course? And were they on a pathway to complete? Because we're about to make some changes for the Cash for Credit program. So basically, the first bar is Cash for Credit students. We had 8,754 Cash for Credit students in fall 2022. How many of them stayed? What does it look like? 100% of them. Over 8,754 Cash for Credit students stayed till the end of the term. Now, if they were non-Cash for Credit students with 6 or more units, 3,551 started. We ended up with 2,890, so we lost 661 students who did not participate in Cash for Credit and had 6 or more units. And then when you look at those students who had less than 60 units, we started out with 12,760, ended up with 11,700, so we lost 1,000 students. So people didn't realize Cash for Credit wasn't just about enrollments and FDSs and census. It was about getting them to retain, to stay in the course. And based on the fall 22 data, we had 100% retention. Now, even though we know they stayed till the end of the term, let's see how they performed in terms of average units of a completion and the GPA. Cash for Credit students who cashed their check enrolled in 11.96 units on average, completed 8.43 units, and had an average GPA of 2.57, which is comparable to the other groups. Those who were cash for credit but did not cash their check. Now, I know you're going to ask why, and we're drilling that down into that. Started at 10.77, completed 7.2, but it's clear that the cash for credit students, or those who intended to participate in the program, had higher units of completion, with GPAs at 2.57 for those who cashed their check, 2.2 who didn't cash their check, and then the students who are not cash for credit had an average GPA of 2.45, those who were enrolled in 6 or more units, and those who were enrolled in less than 60 units and not cash for credit, 2.9 GPA. So not only are the cash for credit students staying the full term, they're getting comparable GPAs. And we looked at the average units they held. How much faster do you think they're completing a pathway compared to a non-cash for credit students? How many times? 2 times faster, 3 times faster, 4 times faster? What is your guess? 3 times. Cash for credits are completing their pathways 3 times faster than a not cash for credit student. Now, the reason why this is important, and the reason we're going to focus on our Pell Grant and Promise Grant students, most of our Pell and Promise Grant students are low income, and many of them are first generation. The maximum Pell Grant eligibility just went up to over 7,000. And I'm talking to student services and counselors. Many of our students did come for cash for credit. But what do you think they used? Let's say cash for credit student, 12 units, they got it $600. What did they use their $600 for? Sometimes living, but most of the time tuition and fees. And I found out from student services and the counselors, after talking to the student, they could have qualified for as much as a full Pell, but they didn't. They used the $600 cash for credit to pay their $600 in tuition and fees. So we are going to try a last dollar in model for cash for credit, because the requirement will now be to complete the FAFSA and the DREAM Act application, because we want them to get their 7,000 plus for their living expenses. And that's how we plan on driving the Pell Grant numbers up. Then let's look at this Pell Grant data. 17, 18, 4,479, 4,100, 4,300, just under 3,600, 4,100, 4,400. What do you notice about the data? Has it changed much? So unlike other parameters like enrollments, it hasn't changed much. That means we have to intentionally do something to drive those numbers up. We have to intentionally get students, hire people, and get them to complete those documents to drive those numbers up. Not just for the student-centered funding formula, but for the students, so they have money to pay for their living expenses, and then we can generate ongoing general fund to sustain the programs that are working for our students. Now, Promise Grant and Promise Program, many of them didn't know, because they enrolled up to 12 units. They could have gotten free textbooks. They could have gotten dedicated support because they had enough units to participate in the Promise Program. But what did I tell you? We found out a lot of students were paying for tuition and fees. The Promise Grant is the easiest thing to qualify for compared to the Pell. So they could have kept their cash for credit. So many of our students, we're going to drive them to the FAFSA, we're going to drive them to the DREAM Act. Whether they get federal or state aid, it doesn't matter, they'll still get their cash for credit. But they could get all three, last dollar in. So look at these numbers. 15,500 Promise grants awarded. We're down to 12,000. Is it because our students got wealthier and didn't need it? No. So we have an obligation, whereas the Pell Grant could be a goal, right? Get from 4,500 to 5,000, and we'll work with the Enrollment Management Committee to set some new goals. But here, this is a little more drastic. This is free higher education. The Promise Grant is free tuition and fees. And they could have kept the cash for credit. And we lost over 3,400. 3,400. And again, I'll go to the Enrollment Management Committee, where the best of the minds are to come up with a new target. But we really owe it to our students to get at least back to the original number at its peak. And then let me show you another picture. Look at our AB 540 students. At our peak, we served nearly 2,000, and now we serve just under 1,500. Do you think we have more or less dreamers? We probably have more. So one of our obligations, we lost 25% of dreamers. To close an equity gap, we have to put in resources to not only serve the dreamers we lost, but to serve the dreamers who are waiting for us. And again, part of why we need general fund dollars is the idea of equality versus equity. Equality, I have 3 students. I gave you each $100. It's an equal amount. What if I told you the first student needed a lot more than $100? And student number 2 and student number 3, I'm going to exaggerate, had $1 million each. They didn't need $100. But I gave them each the same amount. That's equality. Equity is saying that these recognizing who needs the resources because they have historically been marginalized or underrepresented. Part of this growth money is to put the resources back, whether it's people, whether it's direct aid, whether it's basic needs, to get them to complete the same goal that we committed to them. So, which is why one of our first big resources is to our Santa Ana College undocu scholars, who now have a full-time student success coordinator, have always had a counselor, and now 3 student workers. Why? So we can get those numbers up and can help them stay incomplete. The other good news, and I'm assuming counselors are going to be putting full-time counselors for some of these affinity centers, because we need full-time counselors in these affinity centers to close these equity gaps. I also have more good news. U2 scholars and Asian Pacific student programs could not have regular hours because they didn't have full-time dedicated staff or classified professional. But they did have counselors and they did have instructional faculty. So now as we speak, U2 scholars and the APSP will now be hiring a full-time student success coordinator. And I'm happy to then announce for the first year in Santa Ana College's history, we're now a minority serving institution and we're also an ANAPZ. So we got 2 more designations. And because we're in Anapeasy, we applied and submitted for our first federal grant for Anapeasy. And Dr. Dela Cruz and her team, I think, submitted a grant with Sarah Santoya from the district's office in maybe 2 weeks with little to no sleep. So thank you, and I hope we get those resources for that center. But there's always more to do. So coming soon is, we hope to dedicate resources and full-time people to LGBTQIA2S+ support staff and a dedicated space. And we now have a permanent SAC Pride Advisory Board, and our co-chairs are Doctors Greg Toya and Lance Lockwood. So before I share this next story, serving 100% is a huge burden, but we don't always have the traditional students. And the truth is, in the K through 12 system and the Unified School District in Santa Ana, Orange County, and many districts in the state, there is huge enrollment decline in the K through 12s. But we don't always serve the traditional student. We serve parents, we serve older adults, we serve families. And here, I'd like to share another actual SAC story of a mother and son.
This is it.
Have a good first day.
You too, Mom.
Everyone's journey looks a little different at Santa Ana College. Whether you're just starting out or starting a new chapter, all that matters is that you embrace the journey you're on. With flexible classes, valuable student services, and a range of degree and certificate programs, students of all kinds can find inspiration and empowerment at Santa Ana College. Wraparound services are available to fit your needs and provide all the necessary tools to achieve academic, personal, and career success. Start your journey at Santa Ana College. Where it leads is up to you.
So that is why an event like Family Night and Noche de Familia is critical, because we serve families. We serve their children, their grandchildren, their aunts, their uncles, their friends, their grandparents. Last summer, I think it was a older adult learning class, which was the banda. Now, they kept playing because they kept getting encores, and this time was an older adult learning choir, which was incredible. But my point is, we have child development, we have early childhood education, we have dual and concurrent enrollment, we have school of continuing, we have a pathway for every member of the family, and we have to send the message that all of them are welcome at Santa Ana College. Now, like I said, is the hard part, the completion agenda. So even though this is only 10% of the Student Center Funding Formula, or the SCIF, this is our most important work. Santa Ana is a very densely populated city. I think the most densely populated, 5th in the nation. But it's not fair when a student comes and leaves. We have to figure out how to get them to stay. And part of our completion agenda for this year, I'm happy to announce we finally hired 3 full-time specialists, 3 in admissions and records. And what they will be rolling out is, for the certificate completers, we are going to fine-tune our auto awarding system. And for the degree completers and certificate, finally have a plan in place to institutionalize front-end transcript evaluation. When you went to your universities, what did they ask you at the beginning? Transcripts. What if our student went to 3, 5, 7, 10 colleges, and they showed up at our doorstep, and we didn't count any of those classes? We need front-end transcript evaluation. We need it in the student record, and we need to hire a lot more counselors, but they need that information in there so that they can advise the students to clarify the path, stay on a path, and complete a path. So that's certificate and degree completers. Then it's the transfer pathways, and I know the chancellor shared a little bit about it. So let's start with Cal State University Fullerton. We are the only college out of all the California community colleges that have a guaranteed transfer for students who went to Santa Ana Unified School District, then came to SAC, and then transferred into Cal State University Fullerton. And because that partnership was so important, we are the only community college that they re-signed with and had a signing ceremony. And we're going to start to study that transfer pathway. The next one is the chancellor shared our partnership with UCLA. Now, the partnership is not just about going to UCLA. It's to be UC ready and transfer and increase the college going rate. So just like we have summer programs with UCI, our hope is to send 150 to 300 students and potentially our own faculty and counselors to do a residential at UCLA. And we are working with their community college department because they want Santa Ana College students. They have been charged with the task of getting students of color, low income, first generation, system or justice impacted, foster youth, AB 540. So they want to close their equity gaps in their transfer agenda. And we will share more later. Next one, I think you'd be surprised by this one. It's Whittier College. We had a meeting, the chancellor set up a meeting with Whittier College and wanted to know if there could be a pathway. Not at those prices. Not at those prices. I didn't have to take off my earrings, but not at those prices. So, and by the way, I am a hoop earring wearer. It just took me 2 years to wear them here. But these are my daughter. I said to my daughter last night, I'm going to wear the hoop earrings. She goes, you're going to wear the hoop earrings, Mom? She goes, like the big ones? I said, no, should I wear the big ones? And she goes, no, let's wear. And she went out and picked up my medium ones. But she said I had to use the double piercing because she said probably most of you don't realize I have a double piercing. So, as a community college transfer partnership, they discounted the tuition for all SAC transfers will get automatically a $20,000 discount, and the new tuition for our students will be $28,000. But I said, that's not enough. Our students don't have $28,000. What will it take so that they get all of it paid for? Zero cost. Well, they said that we would have to maximize a combination of local and federal and state grants. I said, so what does that look like? Because I'm not going to bring a student to you to get them all excited to find out they can't afford Whittier College. So what they did is they identified students with 3.5 or better. If they have a 0 EFC, they'll get both the $5,000 annual scholarship, the $7,000 scholarship, and we already know if they have a 0 FC and are attending full-time, they get the $7,000 from the Pell Grant. We figured out that there's 480 students that can get zero cost at Whittier College. And we are working on a plan, and Whittier College will accept them with any amount of transferable units. will also accept them in any term upcoming. So even though that window has passed in November, that's a pathway. And guess what the student-teacher ratio is right now at Whittier College, if they go? 1 to 8. So you can guess the retention rate. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty good at negotiating, especially when it comes to our students. I will barter, beg. I collegially borrow, not steal. So for our students. So I said, what if I have a cohort and they can't get to Whittier College? Will you send a bus to Santa Ana College, pick them up in the morning and drop them off? What do you think the answer was? Yes. And lastly, I asked them, just in case they do want student housing and food, guess how much it's going to cost them for the year, the academic year? A little over $12,000 in Southern California. Student housing plus food is a little over $12,000. So they will have that option as well. Then some upcoming partnerships that we'll be seeing will be UCI, as the chancellor discussed, and La Sierra is another one. But I'm gonna call it like the Whittier College deal. Are you gonna give me the Whittier College deal? That's what I'm gonna do. So now back to the new chancellor's vision for 2030. You can see it's about increasing dual enrollment, increasing justice involved California enrollment, increasing student access, success, and support, increased numbers in Pell, Cal Grant, and Promise Grant. So our work for this year aligns perfectly with the 2030 vision by the new chancellor. And on top of it, it's the emphasis on baccalaureate attainment. Full-time, completion, transfer, all that we were going to be focusing on this year. And then, of course, looking at decreasing the average units of completion, but that will only happen with front-end transcript evaluation. But here we have a baccalaureate. What's our baccalaureate in? Occupational studies. And you saw that I had to take back another email because we're submitting another one for, that's right. Now the truth is, and how much does our baccalaureate attainment cost? That was close, 11,000 compared to 11,000 for bachelor's, compared to as much as 30 or 40,000 annually for a bachelor's. So here we have an actual student story who is working part-time, going to school. Guess what her major is? Occupational therapy or occupational studies, and Vietnamese translation.
Starting your college journey is a big step. It requires discipline and dedication while you balance your work, life, and education. At Santa Ana College, you can choose a pathway that fits into your schedule and leads you toward your personal and educational goals. Earn an associate degree, university transfer, career training, or even a bachelor's degree in occupational studies. With classes available both in person and online. Gain the professionalism and confidence you need to further yourself and your career. And become a bigger part of your community. Wraparound services are available to fit your needs and provide all the necessary tools to achieve academic, personal, and career success. Start your journey at Santa Ana College. Where it leads is up to you.
So equity at the center. A lot of times equity work, DEIA, is siloed work. The only way to start closing equity gaps is putting it front and center. Usually, like I'm going to do right now, we present data in its aggregate format. And you can see that 51% of our students are earning a living wage, 70% are in a job that are in the field of study, earning a median for 44,000. We had about 1,500 students that earned certificates, over 1,500 associate's degree, 600 plus ADTs, 589 students who transferred into UCs or Cal States, and about 2,011. But how many students do we serve? We're the second largest college in the state. We can serve as many as 30,000 to 40,000 students. We have to get students to stay and complete. And when you look at this in its aggregate form, it actually looks pretty good. 74% course success rate, 75% schedule fill rate, 80% of students feel a sense of belonging at Santa Ana College. But here, look at this number, 21% receive Pell. And I know in your classrooms and in your offices, you know the student stories, and you know they qualify for aid. 46, so you know what, I must say, I'm really proud of the work of our faculty, classified professionals, and leadership, because what did go up is fall-to-fall persistence. At one point, I think we were 20 or 30%. That means at least 1 in every 2 students is coming back the following fall. And I think a lot of it had to do because during COVID, while a lot of colleges and cultures stayed away, we were present. We were here for students. We opened our doors. That's actually a decent persistence rate, but we're not going to stop there because we can do more. 13% completed transfer level math completion for degree-seeking students in the first year. And look at English over here. 20% transfer level English completion for degree-seeking students in the first year. That's actually pretty good, and they also got 2 awards this year for their work. But look how many students we serve, 38,000 credit head count, 17,000 continuing ed, and look, we're almost to the 20,000 FTSs at 18,500. And again, aggregate data sometimes looks good, but aggregate data hides inequities. And I'm going to show you an example of how we're going to start presenting data in 23-24. For the Vision for Success goals, we almost reached all of them. 88% of our goal for AAs, 93% for certificates, combined 85%, ADTs, 84%, earnings and living wages, 97%, 88%, and we exceeded 2 goals, getting our average units of completion at 78 or lower, and in a field of study. But now, do you understand why we have to emphasize the transfer agenda? Only achieve 30% of our goal. I just recently went to a meeting in Orange County Regional Consortium. What do you think the difference in income is from a certificate to an associate's degree? How much more money do they get? 10,000? You know what the difference between an AA and a bachelor attainment is in Orange County in terms of income? $30,000 to $50,000. Significant difference. Because I just showed you our average income is $44,000. Is that enough to sustain yourself in Orange County? Southern California. So this, I know it doesn't, you can't read everything, but this is our Vision for Success goals in a different way. This is, I had Dr. Martinez highlight the boxes where there's DIs. When I showed you our Vision for Success outcomes in its aggregate form, it looked like only one area needed attention. Only one area. All those highlighted boxes are disproportionate impacts for specific groups. Under gender, you see the gender? We do have a gender gap for males and non-binary. If we look at race and ethnicity or ethnic breakdowns, we do have an equity gap. We do have a disproportionate impact. We have it for our Native American students, our Black African American students, our Pacific Islander and Hawaiian students, and our white students. And then age, 19 and younger, and 30 and older. But let me tell you, in all my years of data, me and Dr. Martinez were floored. I've never seen an age gap for all the older age students like that. We have never seen that. It's usually a specific group. That's why we have to drill down and disaggregate the data. And next, we have to do intersectionality. So Dr. Martinez wouldn't tell you because he's going to have to study it with a research analyst. But when I look at those equity gaps, you know what I see? Guess who's not staying and completing? Our older men of color. And the question is, what resources, who do we have to hire to ensure that they stay and complete? So I fully expect the equity committee to start drilling down. We're going to look at intersectionality and moving forward, this is how we keep equity at the center. This is how we make sure all roads lead to success, because our job and our focus is our students closing the equity gaps, and we have to get them to stay and complete. Because when we change their lives, we will change the lives of their children and their families exponentially. And they will give back to SAC, and they will give back to the communities that they came from. That is how we put success in front of us. And we do it by disaggregating the data and looking at an intersectionality. And those millions we receive will go back to students, will go back to programs, will go back to hiring who we need to. We have hired at least 30 plus faculty. I fully expect, so this is a secret, if the counselors put like 10 counselors on their program review, that might actually work, so I hope to see all those counselors, especially for the affinity centers. But the truth is, continuing education needs faculty, welding needs faculty. We hired one of our largest class, we should hire another one. And we have to hire more classified professionals. You know who gets students to stay? You do. You know who gets students to stay in a classroom and complete it? You do. You know who gets that student through the door and convinced that they can go to college? You do. So that money will go back to hiring the positions we need to sustain the growth. And now we will hold ourselves accountable to closing those equity gaps by presenting data in its disaggregate and intersectional form instead of the aggregate form. And then we will get our students to stay and complete. You all do amazing work. Welcome back to fall 2023. And I noticed today some of you didn't recognize me because I pulled my hair back, but I did get some Santa Ana College bling. I just want you to notice. I'm not sure it was that noticeable. So, to end us off on our fall 2023 convocation, and our theme of education, completion, and equity, I am so proud to introduce a recently published author, Dr. Yancey Carter. Dr. Yancey Carter is a dynamic keynote speaker, renowned author, and accomplished associate professor. His journey through academia and personal growth has left an indelible mark on the fields of education and human behavior. With a doctoral degree in educational psychology from La Sierra University, Dr. Carter has dedicated over 16 years to higher education, serving as both a counselor and an inspirational instructor. Dr. Carter's own story is a testament to the transformative power of education. As a product of the community college system, he understands firsthand the pivotal role it plays in shaping lives and fostering opportunities. This unique perspective infuses his work with passion and a profound understanding of the challenges and triumphs that individuals face in pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement. Whether through engaging written works, thought-provoking talks, or innovative teaching methods, Dr. Yancey Carter continues to empower individuals to rise above their circumstances, recognize the value of education, and create lasting, positive change in their lives. His contributions to the world of education are truly inspiring, making him a beacon of hope and a catalyst for personal and educational transformation. Please give a warm Santa Ana College welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr. Yancey Carter.
Say 5, 10, 15 years ago, I couldn't imagine myself being on this type of platform and stage and sharing my story and overcoming and succeeding through education. And oftentimes, when I'm asked to present or speak with regards to my story, one of the first questions I like to ask myself, what type of value can I add to what it is that you're requesting of me? So when speaking with Dr. Neary, and she presented this opportunity to me and shared her vision of what you guys were doing over here, I felt compelled to say, yes, I'll be more than happy to come and speak and share my story, which is a unique story, by the way, a very unique story with regards to education and the role that it played in my life and putting me in the space that I'm in right now, mentally and emotionally, right? So I got a question that I like to ask you guys. Because see, I grew up in an environment in which there was no real value placed on education and the power that it brings in terms of changing our lives. How many of you, by a show of hands, remember the names of all of your elementary school teachers from 1st grade through 8th grade? Okay. Many of the times I'm often a chuckle all the time because I say to myself, like, we spent the better part of a year with these individuals, 5, 6 hours a day for 5 days a week. How could you not remember your teacher? Unless they were not impactful, unless they really didn't serve really any type of value or experience throughout that year. But for someone like myself, I can almost guarantee you if that question was asked to my teachers, they'd be like, yes, I do remember him. I remember him very well. In fact, I'd love to forget him because of how much trouble that he brought. So I grew up in Chicago, from Chicago, and I like to believe that I was born with a disadvantage. My mother and father had already separated before I had came into this world. My mother had spent, a few stints in mental institutions prior to me coming into this world, and her and my dad had a very tumultuous relationship filled with nothing but abuse, which carried over once I came into the world. And I can remember one of my earliest memories around 4 years old when I first started school, kindergarten. And my mom took me. We showed up to this class that was very bright, colorful, kids playing, toys everywhere. And she just went in there, say, hey, see you later. So I run up to her, hugging her leg, like, no, I don't want to go, crying and crying and crying. And it was the teacher, Mrs. Erica was her name, who calmed me down and made me feel comfortable where I stayed that day. So my mom later on came and picked me up from school that day. And I remember telling her how excited I was, and although I didn't understand why she left me there, she did explain, this is school. This is what you do as a kid. You go to school. This is what you're gonna be doing for the next, 15, 20 years of your life, more than likely. All right, cool. So on our way home, I remember asking my mom, can I have a cupcake that was in the refrigerator? And I kept asking her on the bus, Mom, can I have the cupcake? Mom, can I have the cupcake? Can I have the cupcake? And a couple of times she said no, but as a kid, you're 4 years old, what do? You keep asking, right? Mom, can I have the cupcake? Can I please have the cupcake? No. So we're getting off the bus. We finally make it up to our apartment. I'm tugging on her skirt. Mom, can I please have a cupcake? No. What does my mom do? My mom turned right around and she punched me square in the nose. Blood squirting everywhere. I start screaming, crying. She smacks me upside the head. Take your ass in that bathroom and wash your face. Get that off your man. So as a kid, you're trying to process this. You don't really know, right? You just wanted the cupcake. And it wasn't until 2 days later that we found out that she actually broke my nose at the time. Didn't go to the hospital or anything like that. In fact, part of it, you could probably see, is still crooked to this day. But that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning. That was just the beginning. It would go on much more to the point where my mother ended up breaking my arm. My mom once told me that she wished she would have flushed me down the toilet. I didn't even know what that meant. I had to go and ask one of my sisters. And when my sister told me what that meant, yeah, that was kind of shocking and surprising, to say the least, right? And she had a merit of men that would come in and out of her life that would do the same exact thing. Beat me. And I didn't meet my dad until I was around maybe 7 or 8 years old. So this was the beginning for me. This was the beginning. Now, through all of this, I still would go to school. Of course, you guys can understand now the behavior was probably out of control. So now you can see why all these teachers was like, yeah, I would love to forget him. But I did have one teacher, my third grade teacher. Her name was Mrs. Freddie Butler. And I was so terrible to her all the time. And she would talk to my mom like, hey, you know what? I think he needs Jesus. Like, he needs God. Like, he got a lot going on. A lot. And so my mom was like, yeah, okay, if you think so. So you know what my teacher used to do, Mrs. Butler? She would come to my house every Sunday and take me to church. No other student. She would show up with that big white hat on, with the white gloves, pearls around her neck, her dress, ring the doorbell. Hey, is Yancy ready for church? And I would come out with my little shirt and tie on, and we would hop in her big, long Cadillac, and we would go to church, sit next to her, and she's clapping, and the preacher, the pastor up there giving a word. And afterwards, she would take me to McDonald's every Sunday, talk to me, and I would just be as happy as I was, and show up on Monday and give her hell. Give her hell on Monday. Man, I would just terrorize her. But she tried. She tried, because I think she had an idea of what was going on at home. But she saw something in me. She saw something in me. But at the time, I was unable to recognize what that was. Because see, Chicago's a different place. It is. It's a much different place. And I've had a chance to travel throughout the states extensively, and I've yet to see a place like Chicago. I like to call it a world inside of the world. It's its own special place. Now, here's a fun fact about Chicago that you guys may not know. To this day, Chicago is the most segregated city in the country. Still today. You only go to school with people who look like you. Everybody in your neighborhood tends to look like you. You really don't go and move and buy homes in areas unless it's in the suburbs. But in the city itself, it's still the most segregated city in the country. So if you're going to the local McDonald's in a specific neighborhood, you can almost imagine that everybody who works there looks just like you, right? So imagine if you never have a chance to really see anything outside of that. Imagine what that does to you mentally, emotionally, how you see yourself. If you're surrounded by nothing but poverty, drugs, gangs, there's no love in the home, nothing but abuse. It's kind of hard to see something, and again, as I mentioned earlier, that growing up in that environment, there's no value placed on education. What is that? Why would you continue to go to school when you don't see anything in towards of a positive outcome behind that. So again, for me, walking through this journey and seeing what education could do didn't come along till later on in life, right? But however, all of the things that I just mentioned up until that point with regard to the abuse sort of gave me a sense of resiliency because I had been through so much. There was an incident in which one of my mother's, he was her husband then at the time. Never forget this guy. His name was Lee. And one day, I had been suspended from school. Of course, I was always getting kicked out of school. And I was sitting down on the porch, and he came, and there was one of my friends sitting with me, and he said, hey, I seen them walking up the street. And he was just angry. You can tell something had happened. And he said, hey, you made your mother have a miscarriage. Come upstairs. I'm gonna kick your ass. Now, I didn't even know my mom was pregnant. She was in the hospital for something. I had no clue. And so he begins to walk up the stairs. As soon as I see him get up the stairs, I shoot off. I run. Because I have an aunt who used to tell me, okay, every time they try to do something to you, just come over here. Now, this was about a good 10 blocks away from where I was living at the time with my mom. So I'm running. And he just so happened to catch me, guess when? When school's getting out. The school that I'm suspended from. So now all the kids are coming out of school. And he catches me right in front of the school, grabs me, dragging me down the street, kicking me, punching me. I'm falling around. I got blood all over my ripped shirt. There's about 15 to 20 kids behind us laughing and taunting. Yancey's getting his ass kicked. Look at him. He's kicking his ass kicked. Now, this went on for about a good 7 blocks. 7 blocks. There's about 15 to 20 kids. We make it to the porch. So the porch goes up like this. And he stands at the top of the stairs. And there's kids with their backpacks on. He's holding me. Y'all want to see him get his ass kicked? What do you think those kids said? Yes. Yeah, come up. Now, again, the space that we lived in was extremely horrible, broken beds, trash everywhere, just a horrible place to live that no kid should live in. So we get up the stairs, and he tells me to take those clothes off, down to my underwear. And I'm sitting on the bed, I'm crying. I'm 10 years old, blood everywhere. And I have a friend, he comes sit next to me. Tion is his name, never forget him. And he says, hey man, you want me to call the police? I'm like, yeah, please man, go call the police, go call the police. And he goes and calls the police, and I've never seen the police come this fast in my life. 2 lady police come up the stairs. Is there a problem in here? See all the kids. He immediately turns around, puts his hand behind his back, because he knows he's going to jail. I run over to the police, and I'm just hugging her like, yeah, he beat me. So the other lady takes him down the stairs, and she calls another squad car, wraps the blanket around me, goes and put me in the back of the squad car, and takes me to that hospital, the same hospital that my mother's in. And they call her and say, hey, this is what happened. Do you want to see him? She said, no. Now, by her not wanting to see me, 2 choices. I need to go with a relative, or I have to go into DCFS. So the police lady, she felt some type of way for me, and she said, hey, you know what, just let him stay here while we try to get in contact with somebody. So for 2 days, I just stayed in the police station until they finally got in contact with my dad. Called him at the time, and he said, yeah, that I can come over there, but there's no way that I could come over there just because of the relationship that me and him had, where he had his whole other family, and there were times that he didn't want me to stay there. So what I ended up doing was going to one of her friend's house, and as soon as her friend, the police let me there and they walked away, her husband gave me some money and told me, she gave me some money and told her husband to walk me to the bus stop to send me with my dad. So as they're walking down the street, I just ran away from them. And I went back to my grandmother's house. And I go back to my grandmother's house, and she's like, hey, told my older brother, take him back home to where it just happened at. So we go back there, it's about 1 in the morning. We get back there. Waking up to some keys jiggling and rustling in the door. You know, there's a little PTSD there, so anything shock, you up. And it's Lee coming through the door. just got out of jail, and he says, hey, your mama told me to tell you to pack you and get out. I'm 10 years old, and I'm walking down the street with 2 like Walmart bags till I hit the bus stop, and I'm just sitting there. One of my mom's friends rides past, George, and he say, hey, what are you doing out there in the bus stop? Tell him what happened, and he takes me to my aunt's house, and that's when my aunt calls my dad. And my dad comes over, because he's forced to come over now, picks me up, takes me over there with him. Now my dad, I'm over there, and he has a whole family, mind you. There's 3 girls and 2 boys, and I don't fit there. And I can recall a time where he's on the phone with my mom and my stepmother on speakerphone, and he tells her he can't stay here. That I can't stay there. Now, as a kid, you know, you're hurting. I go in a room and I'm crying. And I'm writing my mother a letter telling her I'm sorry for whatever it is that I did. I just want to come home. I just want to get back out of here. Now, at this time, I never sent that letter. She never received it. It was just me writing it. So a couple of weeks go by, and my dad tells me one day, hey, grab your clothes. We get into his van with my stepmother and my 3 little sisters, and we go, and we're driving to this familiar place as I'm looking around like, oh man, this is where my mom used to live at. And he pulls up in front of her house, and he says, hey, your mama live right there. Grab your stuff, go up there. And as soon as I get out, it's funny, I can laugh at this now. He pulled off. He pulled off. He pulled off. And my mom opened the door, laughing and smiling, like, hey, welcome home. Like it was all good. And it was just back to normal, right? Everything was cool for maybe a month or so, but then it was back to everything that I was used to. Always running away from home, always out in the streets, getting more familiar with that than what I should have been getting more familiar with was what? Education. Even though I was constantly suspended from school, kicked out a lot, I always liked school. Now, maybe from an academic standpoint, you wouldn't know that, right? But for me, going to school and socializing and social interacting with the other kids was also a form of learning. Was also a form of understanding the environment more. It was tough. It was very tough. It was not easy at all, getting up every single day, going, participating, knowing that you're hurting in the inside, knowing that there's a lot lost. Now, this is something that a kid should experience early on, right? In terms of love, things that you actually need. And it wasn't until I got to college when I first came in contact with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I was like, damn, I missed like all of those right there. I didn't hit none of those right there milestones at all. Had to repeat the 5th grade. By the time I made it to 8th grade and graduated, I had been suspended from school over 57 times. And I had went to 6 different elementary schools. From being bounced around between my mom or my dad or one of my sisters, my grandmother's homes, wherever I could get. Now my dad at the time when I graduated from 8th grade, he worked right across the street from the school. He was the janitor in the projects that we lived in, the housing projects. And he didn't even come to the 8th grade graduation. So how do you kind of make it through life when you're dealing with all this? And you don't even know it, that you're dealing with all this. See, I thought that this was normal. I thought everybody lived like this. I thought this was regular because it's your environment. You're a product of your environment. If you don't see anything outside of that, how do you know what's outside of that? You're going to adapt to the environment. So this was considered normal to me. Violence, hustling on the streets, being associated with gangs. We were always in a season of survival unknowingly. No one paid attention to what school could possibly offer. No one saw any type of value in that. Not even myself at that particular time. No one saw any type of value in going to school. So by the time you make it to 8th grade, that's achievement. That's a milestone in itself. But I had done so much up until that point in life where the inevitable next step for me had to be something much more tragic. It had to be. I was in the streets hustling, selling drugs, being a part of the gang, being a follower. When I was in 7th grade, I got caught with a gun in school, got walked out of school by the police in front of the whole school. There was no value whatsoever in terms of going to school. None. You were adapting to the environment. We were always in a season of survival. But I will say this, that was also school. I think life is school. Through your experiences, you educate yourself. This is school, right? You go through these different experiences. Hopefully you're paying attention and that you're learning, so as you continue to go through life, when you encounter similar experiences, if you did not enjoy the outcome the first time, you know how to respond a little bit differently. Because you have some inner tools now, right? That you can see things a little bit different. Now, this isn't what I was thinking at the time, but as I got older and I realized that's what I was doing, I'm paying attention any way of what it takes in order to survive. So I make it to 8th grade. I've done a lot, been in a lot of trouble. Now it's time to go to high school. So what happens? So I'm out in the streets. Of course, I end up getting shot, right? But that was nothing new. That wasn't shocking because everybody gets shot. Everybody. To get shot when you're 12, 13 years old, somebody getting shot, that was regular. That's nothing new. Being shot is more like becoming a man. When you're Jewish, you have a bar mitzvah, right? When you turn 13, right? When you graduate high school, you usually go to college or go to the army, right? However, in the environment in which I was raised, by the time you're 21, you're either dead or in jail. That's the outcome. And that's regular. So for someone getting shot, that's just regular. You become desensitized. Look, I was just with him yesterday. We were just hanging out. I go home and I go to sleep. When I come in the morning, oh, you know, Dave got killed last night. I was just with him. All right. You don't have the luxury to process that and to mourn, to see how impactful that is, right? Undiagnosed PTSD, right? Desensitized to violence and trauma are regular everyday things in the environment. You guys, I'm pretty sure, everybody in here, you're smart. You know the outcome of most of us when we come from these environments. Again, by the time you're 21, it's predicted that you'll be dead or in jail. In fact, there have been studies that have been done to predict the number of individuals who will go to prison from 3rd grade. And they'll use those statistics to build more prisons because they know exactly how many will be coming, right? There's a lot that goes on when you're coming from an environment where you don't see anything outside of yourself that's worth pursuing, yet alone education. this is what you see. There's no hope. There's nothing to look forward to. You become desensitized to life itself. Some of us, in fact, when we come from the environment, we run head on towards death. We become more violent because we can't operate any other way. We don't see no future behind this. And this was my mindset. This was me. This was me. But again, I do like to consider myself to be somewhat of an outlier. Because although there were plenty of times and situations in which I shouldn't be standing here speaking in this moment, but for some reason I was always saved or given some type of grace that I was unaware of, that I wasn't paying attention to at the time. And I do not know what that was. To the point today where anytime, I'm extremely grateful, where I say, hey, thank you for choosing me, thank you for saving me, and thank you for delivering me from my past. Because I know that it's a blessing for me to be at this point in life. And in order for me to get to this point, again, it was solely education. Education saved my life. So, at the age of 21, I told you, by the time you're 21, you are either dead or in jail. So by the time I was 21, I was in jail. And by the time I turned 21, I had already been arrested about 11 times. But in this time, it was a little bit more serious. Had a bunch of charges. And all of those charges, from robbery, from drugs, to battery, just finally caught up. And I'm being honest, a lot of things I didn't do, I did not do. But I'll say this to say that what I've learned is that there are no innocent men in prison. There are no innocent men in prison. Whatever we do, none of us get away with anything. And I could have said how unjust it was for what was given to me and how wrong it was. But everything you do ultimately catches up with you. Everything you do. So I was sentenced to 12 years in prison, 12 years. And I ended up serving 6 years because in the state of Illinois, when you're sentenced, depending upon not federal but state, if you get 12 years, 20 years, you're gonna always do just 50%, half of that time. So I ended up serving 6 years in prison. Now this is where my life changed. Because prison saved my life. That was the best thing that happened to me up until that point. And I didn't know. But what I learned was this early on. When you have a very negative attitude and you got that aggressive behavior towards life and you lack emotional intelligence, society will place you in an environment with other people who are just as aggressive as you, who also lack a high level of emotional intelligence. And once you get in that environment, it's a little bit different. The rules are different. They operate a little bit different. And for me, again, it was one of the best things that happened to me at that time. It saved my life. Now, I would never recommend that somebody go to jail or prison, by all means. But for me, it turned out to be a blessing. I had never read a book until I went to jail. First time I read a book. That book was, If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules. And I was so intrigued and fascinated by the book, I was taking notes, writing things down. I enrolled in a GED program, ended up getting my GED. And what that did was built momentum. Confidence, like, oh, I can do this. All right, cool, I'll take that. Then the next thing I did, I enrolled in a commercial custodial maintenance class where you learn how to buff and strip floors. Then from there, I enrolled in a food service certificate course as well. And then I got transferred down to a whole nother prison. And when I got there, about a week into it, I saw a childhood friend that I hadn't seen in years, and he was coming out of one of these buildings. And then I was yelling at him, "Hey, Jay, what's up, man? How's it going?" Like, "Oh." So I walked over there to him, like, "What you doing? Where you coming out of the building?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to college, getting a degree." I looked at him like, "What?" Just gave him the look, like, "Oh, man, that's cool." Yeah, so the conversation just went on and on and on, not anything about college at all, to the point where I ended up moving into the same dorm that he was in. And he started talking to me, like, "Hey, man, you should really think about this too, going to college." Like, "All right, cool, I'll try it. I'll try it out, definitely." So he walked me through it, helped me get enrolled, sat me down with some of the counselors that were over there, and I enrolled in college. Started taking courses, and I ran into this one professor, Mr. Sheldon. And Mr. Sheldon said one of the most profound things I had ever heard in my life up until that point, where I absorbed it deeply. He said, "Your thoughts and your actions of the past has placed you in this present moment, in this present circumstances. So whatever your thoughts and your actions are in this present moment will determine where you'll be in the future." What? Wait, what? Again, your thoughts and your actions of the past, the things you thought about, the action you took, placed you right here in this moment. So whatever your thoughts and your actions are in this moment will determine where you'll be in the future. Whoa. Okay, so I need to start thinking more positively then, right? I need to start having some dreams and some goals in terms of my thoughts. My actions need to be more positive. I need to separate myself. Because this really works, huh? Yes, it does. And I use that to this day. I tell that to students to this day. Another professor, Mr. Gary Pashard, he used to talk to us about buying stock in Walmart in 1990. I didn't even know what Walmart was. But he's telling us about you could buy stock in Walmart. And then after you do that, you could buy your first apartment. It doesn't matter that you've been in jail. You can buy a 4-unit building when you get out of here. Wait, what? Who told you this? Now, mind you, he's a man of a certain age at this time. So he's gone. He has a ton of wisdom. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He's telling us the truth. But for me, I had never heard anything like this. See how this is playing out now? Information that I'm being given, right? Knowledge I'm absorbing, all because I'm in this environment. So about a year later, Mr. Sheldon comes back to the class. He taught world civilization. And he says, "Hey, I have a statistic for you guys. I'm going to show you this article here." And the article stated 95% of inmates who receive an associate degree never return. I want that. Yes, yeah. 95% of inmates who receive an associate degree never return, never recidivate. I want that in my life. And I sought out for it. And I attained it. So I ended up getting an associate degree, well, a GED, then an associate degree, a commercial custodial maintenance certificate, as well as a food service certification and license in 6 years. That associate degree was through a community college, Southeastern Illinois College. Mrs. Kelly Boyd was the counselor. The power of education. So now, going through all of this, this is how I spent my time. Reading books and educating myself. That's why I say this was the best thing that ever happened to me. There was an incident where, two incidents. The first one was waiting in line to go to lunch. And guys are just talking about what they're gonna do when they get out. and, you know, the next moves and things that they're gonna make. And the guy, Jeremy, asked me, what are you gonna do when you get out? And I said, man, you know what? I'm not even ready to go home. You stupid, you dumb, who don't wanna be in here? You crazy, you're gonna be in here for the rest of your life. Who don't wanna go home? Me. I wasn't ready. Wasn't ready. I wasn't ready mentally. Wasn't ready spiritually. I was not ready. If I would have went out at that time, I was coming right back. See, for them, they didn't understand that we were on two different paths. A whole different trajectory. We are not the same. I think I needed that right now. I know I needed that right now. And there was also an incident where your mouth can get you in trouble, a lot of trouble. In food service class, surrounded by a bunch of guys who were much older than me, and they were just talking. We were talking about life. And I said, man, if I was 40 years old and I had kids and I couldn't get them nothing, I'd just kill myself. Now, all of these guys were 40 and plus years old, sitting at this table. And one of them got up and slammed the stuff down on the table so hard and started cursing and yelling. And I backed up so fast away from that table. Like, hold up. But I didn't know what I said. This was just out of ignorance. But this is how I felt. Like, I wouldn't want to be here if I was at that space and stage in life, but not knowing that these words were insulting. And this is not the type of environment where you say these things when you're surrounded by a bunch of guys who are murderers, right? But that's how I felt. This is what my mind was. This is also how I knew that I was growing through life. This is also how I knew that I was growing through life. It's time to go home now. I'm ready to get out of here. And so before you leave, you have to do like a pre-parole check to see where you're going, get an address, and where they know where you're going to be at. So I remember calling my grandfather. This is my dad's dad. And I asked him, can I come and stay with him? My grandmother had passed away a few years earlier. He had a real big house. And he told me, no. Your mother and daddy should have somewhere for you when you get out. Man, I was so hurt. My spirit was broken. And I was very hurt. But it was until later on that I realized this because my grandfather didn't know the new person that I had become. So he wasn't wrong in that area, right? So my only other option and alternative was to go to my grandmother's house, which is my mom's mom, that I did not want to go. Had a bunch of uncles who were still on drugs. My brothers and them living there still selling drugs. It's just a house full of chaos and negativity. I do not want to go here. But as you'll see, that was the best thing that happened to me, to go there. That was the best thing that could have happened. So before I left, I remember seeing this picture right here in the halls of where we used to take the courses, college courses. And I would walk past this for months on end and just see this. Until one day, I happened to ask one of the other guys, I said, hey man, what's this picture mean? Like, what does this represent? And he asked me, he said, do you think the glass is half empty or half full? He says, half empty. And he said, well, that means that you have a very negative, pessimistic outlook towards life, obstacles, and challenges. And I was like, I don't want to be that way. Another aha moment. Another aha moment for me. Another moment that changed my life. Through a simple picture. And I did not want to be that way. And you know what that taught me? Anything in life you want to do, you can do it. If not, you're going to make an excuse as to why you can't get it done. Again, anything in life you want to do, you can do it. If not, you'll just make an excuse as to why you can't get it done. It's always easy to blame someone else for our problems. We do that. All of us do that, right? We've all done that. She should have did it. She should have known better. You should have helped me. At the end of the day, it's all on you. Anything that you want to do, you're going to do it. If not, you're just going to make an excuse as to why you cannot get it done. Okay. So now I'm out, and I'm hungry. You can't tell me anything. I'm hungry. I'm going to make it. And remember I told you about how my grandfather did not want me to come there? So me going to my grandmother's house put a lot of fire in me that I knew I couldn't be there. Where I got out in the middle of the summer, like within a week I had a job. And then I was enrolled in college, Roosevelt University, right in the fall, which was another challenge itself. But within 11 months and 22 days, I was out of my grandmother's house and in my own apartment. From working 2 jobs, and going to school full time. Didn't make no excuses whatsoever. If I would have went to my grandfather's house, I would have been comfortable. He wouldn't have put the pressure on me. See, that's how life works. That's how it works. Remember, never forget this. Sometimes the rejection is a blessing. Sometimes the rejection is a blessing to send you in a whole nother direction, to put you on a whole nother path. Sometimes the rejection is a blessing. We don't understand it in that moment, but in hindsight, you get some time and you really think about it. Sometimes that rejection be a blessing. It'd be a true blessing. But I was hungry. I was real hungry. You weren't going to stop me. Again, working 2 jobs, going to school, getting my own apartment. I remember there was this one incident where getting a job, I had a friend, and he said, hey, man, my other friend's wife, she'll give you a job at KFC. And I was like, all right, cool, man, I'll take it. All right, cool, I'll set up the interview. The young lady called me and everything. Ended up getting up in the morning, it took me 2 buses and 3 trains to get to this KFC. And I got to go to school in the evening. And I get there, and the young lady calls me from outside, come in, we're sitting down, we're talking. And then she's like, okay, yeah, he told me you went to jail. What was you in jail for? I was like, drug cases, robbery. Robbery? I don't know why he told you that. And there's people in here. I'm not hiring you. That's crazy. I don't even know why he would even send you over here like that. I'm like, you know, my face is flustered. I feel so embarrassed and ashamed. And I don't even know what to say. It's like a deer caught in the headlights. Like, I'm not going to do this just yelling and going on. I just grabbed my backpack like, okay, thank you. I ain't say thank you. Let me stop saying I didn't say thank you. I just walked out of there. And I'm walking to that bus stop, though. I'm going to lie, I was hurt. A little bit depression in there, a little bit like, damn, what? Man, get home and I call Phil like, hey, man, why you send me in there doing that? And this lady talking about she not hiring me. He was like, oh, man, let me talk to her husband. I told her, I was like, you know what, I got another one for you. Nah, I'm okay, man. I'm okay. And it was another KFC, too. Like, nah. I'm going to take my chances elsewhere. I'm okay. So I ended up going to school and getting a federal work-study job through Jumpstart, through AmeriCorps, working through NTA National Teaching Academy. And I'll never forget this young lady, still very close friends to this day, Miss Renita Johnson, hired me on. And a couple of months later, they found out that I had a felon, so they told her that I couldn't work. She had to let me go. And then she came to me and told me that, and she said, please, Yancy, you know, I'm so sorry, don't worry about it. Just sit for 2 weeks and I'll get back to you. And lo and behold, she went and fought for me. And 2 weeks later, they hired me back on. So again, the momentum, it's keeping in. I'm enrolled in college. This is working out for me. And then I got another job working as a shift supervisor for a market research firm. So I'm working 2 jobs, going to school, and everything's working out. I started off, my major was elementary education, right? And I started student teaching. Let's talk about diversity and equity. And they stuck me for the student teaching right in the middle of a housing project. The Ickies is what it's called. 2 miles of 16-unit high-rises, right in the middle of that. And I guess because they figure you look like it, you could relate. You okay with this here? No, not necessarily. It was very discouraging, to be honest. There was this one particular incident that changed my whole entire dynamics and thought process towards elementary education. 2 little girls were fighting, and the teacher who I was paired up with was another African-American male gentleman who taught 5th grade, older gentleman, and both of the young ladies got suspended. One of the young ladies came back at the end of the day, came to the school, went right up to the teacher, yelling at him, cursing at him, "Why you be this and you that?" And the mother was with her. And the mother was just holding her arm, telling her, "Come on, girl, let's go. Come on, girl, let's go." Now, this is a 10-year-old cursing out this teacher. At that point, I decided that elementary education is not my thing. How about we go and study psychology to learn why they behave like this? And so that's what I did. The next day, I went and changed my major to psychology the very next day. Like, nah, this is not gonna be able to work for me. I'm not fitted for this. You know, we gotta know our strengths and weaknesses. And I could not do that. Not to mention I had nieces and nephews that were 10, 14, 12, like, oh no, it just really set in. I think I should, try another path that I can be more useful and give a lot of energy to, because this is not going to work. So again, I went and changed my major to psychology, And I ended up graduating on May 4th of 2007 with my bachelor's degree, in psychology. Yeah. Now, that was not necessarily the intent early on. I still haven't reached that point where I know that this is useful and important, right? The only reason that I enrolled in college immediately once I came home was because, you're trying to talk to a young lady and she says, "Well, you do?" "Oh, I'm in school." That's better than saying I'm sitting at home playing a PlayStation or I just got out of jail. So I figured saying that I'm in school, that's something, right? As a man, you don't want to approach a woman with no type of plan for your life, right? And you just came through this, and I don't care what nobody says, because I've sat in it. When you say that you've been to jail or prison, people are going to look at you funny. I do not care what no one says. Perception is everything. So it takes a lot to change and shape that perception. It takes a lot to change and shape that perception of yourself. But that was my goal. That was also a goal of mine. And also, the year before, I had saw a young man come and pick up his cap and gown, and he had his mom with him. And they were standing in a corner, and she was helping him, adjust his collar and fix his shirt. And I just got caught in that moment, coming out of the math class, like, man, I want to do that. I want to graduate. I want to graduate. I want to do that. So again, look at the power of education and being in that environment and what it does to you, how it shapes you, how it transforms your life. It gets a little bit better here. So right before I graduated, September 15th, 2006, it was a Friday to be exact, got into an incident in which my brother stabbed me up, my oldest brother, times. Now the backstory to this is, prior to me getting sent away, it was my brother, my oldest brother, he ended up telling on me, and I caught another case, which they gave me, because I would always tell my brother what I was doing. And my brother lived about 2 hours away, down in Champaign, Illinois. So I went down there a few times. I ended up buying a car from one of his friends, just going down there hustling. And the police went down there while I was already in the county jail, and they talked to him. And he told them what I had told him, and they gave me a whole entire other case. And he never told me that the police came down here and talked to him all the times that I was talking to him on the phone. Until after I got the other case, and I came back from the police station, I said, called them, "Hey man, why you didn't tell me the police came down there and was talking to you?" Like, "Oh yeah, they did." Okay. So that's a lot of resentment. That's a lot of anger for this time while I'm locked up. So this is sort of what led up to this. So on this particular day, my grandmother called me and she said, "Hey," crying on the phone, your brother stole my debit card, took my money and went and spent it all, and I ain't got no food in the house or nothing. I can't do nothing because your brother done took my stuff. And I'm saying to myself, like, man, that's bad, you know. I'm gonna talk to him, Grandma. I can't believe he did that. Man, I can't believe he did that. So riding down the street, happened to see some of the guys that he hangs out with, roll down the window like, hey, y'all see my brother? Like, nah, we ain't seen him. All right, cool. But it was another guy who was on the porch that I had a little gripe with as well. So I pulled over and got out of my car, and I went on the porch, and me and him started arguing and fighting due to the fact that a couple of weeks prior to that, I had asked him to stay at my apartment and wait for the cable company to come and put in the cable, and he ended up stealing money from me. And I hadn't saw him. He stole the money out of my house, so I was kind of upset about that and confronted him about that. And in the process of me fighting him, somebody called my brother, and he ended up coming around. So he's coming down the street, and I see him, and he's coming fast. He got this aggressive look in his face, and he's yelling, "You looking for me?" And so in my mind, I'm trying to think quickly, like, yeah, come here. I want to talk to you about those pens that I let you borrow. Let me get those pens back. So as soon as he comes up to me, I just punch him in the face, punch him again, we fight. I get him in a headlock, and one of the other guys is standing on the side telling him, no, don't do that. I'm not paying no attention. All the time he has a big knife on him. In the process of me holding him, he pulls it out, and he stabs me, not once, but twice. Let go. Back up, my shirt's bleeding. He runs up on me, and he stabs me again. Now I can't breathe, so I'm backing back, and he stabs me again, where he ended up giving me a 1-inch gash in my diaphragm. So now I'm really messed up. One of my other cousins comes, so he runs away, takes me in the car and takes me to the hospital. Ended up having an emergency surgery that night, getting up. So the whole entire weekend I'm in there. I don't know anything because I'm so sedated, don't know anything at all. So it's Monday, I'm coming through, and the only thing in my mind was, oh, I have to get out of here. If I stay in here, I can't pay my rent, I'm gonna get fired from my job. And I can't go to school. I can't stay in here. So I'm trying to pull the tubes out. They call the police in and handcuff me back to the bed, telling me no. And I'm talking to the doctor saying, no, I can't stay here. And the only thing that's going in my mind, I have to pay rent. If I don't, I'm gonna get kicked out. I have nowhere to go. They have me handcuffed to the bed. Now, I have coworkers who are coming in and seeing me at the time, talking to me. But I'm just so sedated. I'm so incoherent about what's going on. In my mind, I need to get out of here. So it was around Thursday where they took me off the handcuffs, and I started talking to the doctor, and I was like, I'm leaving it. As soon as the first chance, I'm taking this, I'm getting up out of here. So they seen how adamant I was, like, all right, make them sign a waiver. Made me sign a waiver saying I'm supposed to stay in ICU for 6 months. And there's a 70% chance if I leave, I'm gonna die. If I leave out of here, I have internal wounds that are not healing. I have staples and stitches in my stomach. I'm signing this, whatever. Because I'd rather take my chances and die than sit in here. If I sit in here and I don't go to school, it's a wrap. I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna be stuck here. If I don't get out of here, I'm gonna get put out of this apartment. There's nowhere for me to go. So for me, it was a lose-lose situation. I just rather take my chances out here. So I signed that waiver. And then that Sunday, my brother and my cousin came and picked me up. And I left, went back to my apartment, and went to school in a wheelchair. I did not drop one class in the fall, not one class. Went back to work and just asked, can I wear jogging pants, because we had a strict dress code, and they let me wear them. Ended up going back to the hospital because I caught an infection in the womb. And when I came back, what was the doctor saying? Idiot, I told you. You think you know everything. You're just gonna die, like. But again, in my mind, I'd rather take that chance. If I drop a class and I don't go back to college in the fall of 2006, it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna make it. That's the only shot that I had. And I would rather sacrifice my life than to sit here and fall into depression with an enormous hospital bill as well. than to not take my chances and go out here and keep going to school and keep working. At that point, I knew the value of education. I knew that if I didn't graduate and I got stuck there in that neighborhood, that it would be a wrap. It was either jail or hell. I was not going to make anything of myself. And I just chose the latter route. Within my spirit, that was the right thing for me to do. Again, the power of education and developing a deep level, which in, again, my opinion, I think is the most important trait that we can develop in this human experience, is a deep level of self-awareness, of understanding who we are, you know, what really lies within us, how far we can go, the true testament of pushing your spirit to the limit, pushing yourself to the limit, and me developing this understanding that at the end of the day, no matter what I've been through or experienced, there is no man, there's no woman on this earth that can stop me from living the quality of life that I desire outside of that man in the mirror, myself. So think about this. You've heard this saying before, that if you put life in a 100% realm, right? 10% is what happens to you. 90% is how you respond. Right? You sit in this hospital, you in ICU, you hurting, you critical. That's only 10% of my problem, is how I looked at it. 90% was a response to that of me sitting here will be detrimental for the rest of my time here on this earth. So I chose to use the latter. Again, anything you want to do in life, I think you can do. I know you can do it. If not, you'll just make an excuse of why you can't get it done. And I know my story is a little bit different. My journey, somewhat of an outlier of what we're used to seeing from anyone for that fact. If I didn't get up out of there, I wouldn't be here giving you guys this story. So again, I graduated, got up out of there, man. Felt good too. From a GED to an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctoral degree, right? Had to repeat the 5th grade. Mother broke my nose, broke my arm, told me she wished she would have flushed me down the toilet. Been shot, stabbed from my own brother. You should think I should be somewhere on the corner, drinking in crazy institution. Nope. I'm here telling you guys the power of education. The power of education, the role that we all play in someone's life. Now, maybe not to this extent, right? But think about how many students you may come in contact with, you know, throughout the year, who's going through something, who's at the brink of just, you know, settling in. You know, this is not for me and I'm out. I can't take this. Education, whether formal or informal, is extremely transformative in a person's life. This is the formal aspect, right? We take this route. We go to college. We obtain some degrees, right? There's the informal aspect where you just go out into the world. You work, try to start a business. In the community college and what it offers with the open access and what it gives to students. California has the largest higher education system in the world, for those of us who didn't know. 113 community colleges, 23 CSUs, 13 UCs, and a plethora of private and for-profit colleges all up and down the coast, right? California's unique, because I think next to New York, we're the only ones who offer free community college tuition, right? Imagine what that does for an individual really looking to get something out of life. And taking this route, taking this course, and how it can transform their lives. All right. So you're looking at this, right? So for me, I state that your purpose will sometimes find you when you're not looking. And that's what happened to me. Purpose finds you when you're not looking. So how did I end up working in higher education? Well, I started off at DeVry University in Chicago, in Naperville, Illinois. And I started off at DeVry University back in 2007 when they were at the helm of online education, where they were having literally about 50,000 course takers every 8 weeks. Every 8 weeks. So they had a huge number of students. And I remember just applying for jobs, applying for all types of different jobs. It didn't matter where it was at, I just needed another job. And lo and behold, DeVry called me and said, hey, you know, we saw your resume, we'd like to get you in for an interview. Okay, great. So this is how life works. I was not looking for this at all. On the day of the interview, the young lady called me and left a voice message and said, hey, please don't come because we can't interview you today. I didn't get that message. No, I'm going. You wasted my time. I went anyway. I showed up anyway. Because she called me maybe like an hour before telling me not to come. Oh, I'm going. So I ignored the message and went anyway, showed up, sat in the lobby. The guy comes down, looked at the clip like, oh man, you're not on here. The young lady comes down like, oh, I'm so sorry, Yancy, we left you a message saying we can't interview you. I apologize. You know what? Let me see what I can do. Let me go get somebody. So she goes and comes back about 15 minutes later, and it was Michelle, Tamika, and Sonia. 3 young ladies interviewed me for about a good hour. And then at the end of the interview, I learned another valuable lesson where she stated, hey, do you have any questions? And my response was no. I was still a bit green, right? And so they were like, okay, cool. And so Michelle goes out and comes back in. Hey, next time they ask you if you have any questions, you better always say yeah. Make up something. Like, okay, thanks for the tip, because I did not know, had no clue. So I ended up getting hired on at DeVry University while I was still working at another marketing firm as a supervisor. Now remember, I'm coming from a different space, so they're running background checks. So I'm still working at that other place because I'm like, if DeVry run, can't quit this job. I won't have anything else to go through. So I ended up working 2 jobs for 6 months, just out of fear that one day DeVry would come in and say, hey man, get out of here. We ain't tell you to come in here. We seen your background. So after 6 months, I felt comfortable enough to quit the other job and let it go. Not only that, within 3 months of working in DeVry, I got promoted from a student service coordinator to an academic advisor. So within 7 months of that, I ended up being asked to come out to California to start up their academic advisement center, in which I was only supposed to stay for 1 year. And then they made me sign a contract saying that if I stay, I didn't want to leave. If I stay, I have to sign a contract saying I won't quit within 2 years, because if I quit, they're going to make me pay back all the money for moving me out here. I immediately signed a contract, yes. A couple of years later, what did I do? I quit. And I ended up going over to Cal State LA, working. And then again, the power of education, being around other individuals who are in this area, you know what? Now I want a master's degree. He has one, she has one. Oh, you get paid that because you have that, and you're doing that. I want to do the same thing. Ended up enrolling in the master's degree course, completed my master's degree in December of 2010, within 2 years of me moving out here. And from there, I went over to Irvine Valley College, and now I'm at Valley College, San Bernardino Valley College as well. Again, just the power of education. Never expected to place myself in a tenured position, become tenured, and an associate professor coming all the way from that area. After going through all of that, again, the power of education. I did not set out on this path and this purpose, but once I sat in there and I started talking to other students as a counselor, like, wow, you're dealing with that? Because see, in my mind, it was easy to talk to someone and tell them that you could do A, B, C, and D just based upon the adversity that I had overcome. It made it seem easy to me to talk to someone and to be able not to talk over their heads, not to talk down to them, but you're talking right to them where you're connecting with them. They're really picking up on what you're saying. You know the exact words and how that feels because you've been in that space, mentally, emotionally. And now here you are in a space where you can help someone else heal, how you can give someone else confidence, how you can inspire someone else through your story. My aim was never to motivate anyone because I learned that you can't motivate anyone. That's more internal. You're driven internally to motivate yourself to do things. However, you can most definitely inspire people through your actions, through your journey. When a person sees how you live your life, that's inspiring. Again, I did not set out on this journey or have this purpose. I want to be this altruistic counselor, professor, and get out and speak and share my experience. I just happened to be navigated into that path and took advantage of it, and I saw that it was a perfect fit for what I really wanted to do in my life once I sat down and realized that. So what happens next, right? My story's still not finished. One more part to this. So now I've been out. Before I was released, there was a counselor who I overheard speaking to someone else, stating that, hey, you know, if you go on and you earn a master's degree or a doctorate degree, you can submit an application to the governor for a pardon. What? So I asked him about, like, oh, no, that's just for people who go and get master's degrees and doctoral degrees. But the seed was already planted. I don't need no more. I know that you could do it. The seed is planted. So in 2014, I set out just to do that. Went and hired a lawyer. And I'm going to put this lawyer on blast. His name is Mr. Chavez. Mr. Chavez. He told me no. He took my money, but he told me no, that this is damn near impossible for you to have this pardon or sealed at any level. And I said, but I read the information, and it can go through interviews and everything like that. Well, cases like yours can't go through that. They won't, you know, it's real. I've never seen nobody do that. All right, but he took my money anyway, though. Well, let's go ahead and pursue it then. And he went through it, not necessarily he did, but maybe I did, all of the legwork. And this process went on for about a good year and a half. And they ended up giving me a court date to come back to Chicago. He didn't tell me about the court date. I just so happened to keep looking and searching to check the status of what was going on, calling and calling around. Oh yeah, we gave you a court date, it's in the next 2 weeks. Now I hadn't talked to him in about 3 months, but this is how life works. This is how life works. Some just put it on my mind, like, let me just follow up and see what's going on. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I have a court date that I had no idea about. So I ended up booking a flight, going to the court date, left him countless of voicemails, just got him to show up to the court date. But I did. That was the most important thing. So when it was my turn to get up there, I presented myself and everything that I had been through, shared my story, shared a testament of my goals and where I was at in life right now. And it was granted. It was granted. And there had only been 3 cases like mine in the past 40 years that had ever been granted a seal. So after the court, guess who calls me 2 days later? Mr. Chavez. Oh, I didn't even know that you had a court date. I didn't see that on the books. I called and asked. Yeah, whatever, man. Whatever. Hey, but I see since you got that, let's go ahead and move forward and put you on the pardon list. $2,700, I can start the process, $10,000 total. That's just a down payment to get the paperwork going. You know, I'll pass, Mr. Chavez. I'll definitely pass on your services this time around. So I ended up getting myself on the pardon list since, I think, 2020. So I think it comes up next year, but I've been on it now for like 2 years, and that's how often they review it. The process for it can take up to 6 years, as you can see. So I'm pretty sure that that'll go through for me as well. So again, my story stands as a beacon of hope and inspiration for our community. When I say our community, this community college system, it's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. I push the community college wholeheartedly because I know what it did for me. It placed me on the right trajectory. It put me in a whole different space. This is where I learned the essence of what life is and how far you can go through knowledge, information. Anything you want to do, you can do it. If not, you're just going to make up any excuses to why I can't get it done. It's easy to point those fingers at someone else. It's easy to give up on ourselves. It's easy to get upset, frustrated, lose patience with life. And I'll say this, each one of us in this room right now, we can count on these 5 fingers who we know, 5 people personally, right now in our lives that we won't trade places with. Because they really going through something, right? Think about when students come in. Think about what they're dealing with. And I don't expect us to be, wholeheartedly all chipper and, all the time when someone comes in, we all have days. Plenty of days I wake up like, yo, this is something. But not enough to stress and become obsessed over, right? But again, this is specifically due to my unique experience in life. And at this particular point in time, I can take off these glasses and look everybody in the eyes and say 95% of my life is good. Today, I'm extremely grateful for everything that I've dealt with. All right, so again, my journey emphasized the importance of diversity and equity. Diversity and equity. Diversity and equity. I think it's only important that I share my experience as it relates to diversity and equity within the community college system, because I will admit it was not all peaches and cream in a rosy journey. There was a lot of racial inequities and things that were very disparaging. I won't name the college, okay? But I've said it, but I won't name it. While I was working there, and again, there were a lot of racial microaggressions with colleagues. Now, mind you, no one at all knew my story until recently, back in June when I released this memoir. Prior to that, nobody knew nothing that I've been through. So while working at Irvine Valley College, again, being one of the only African-American males out of maybe 2 or 3 on campus, I had a lot of racial microaggressions, a lot of incidents that happened where one young lady, I was having my daughter at the time, and I was taking some time off, and we were just sitting there on a Saturday getting some work done, and she turns around out of the blue and says, hey, you know what would be a good name for your daughter? You should name her Bojangles. Yes, definitely. And one of my other coworkers turned around and said, that's racist? And for me, my mindset was, I've never been the type to like, hey, let me go and talk to HR. I'll just leave, because I'm like, I don't want to work in a space where you don't want me to be no way, and I don't want to have to deal with this. I'll just go find something else and do something different. And so, again, a couple of weeks later, you know how they'll give you the cake and ice cream for your baby shower, bring you the little gifts. And I ended up holding the cake, taking a picture, and she said, man, that looks like a nice mug shot. Didn't know what I've been through. I'm saying, all right, strike 2, right? A few months later, we were having an event on campus in which they had a facilitator come in to talk about suicide prevention and things like that to look for within students. And the facilitator made a statement saying that African-American males are probably the least likely to commit suicide. And she budges me, that's because they're all in jail. That's what she said, yeah. Now, that was it. I couldn't take it no more after that. I'm out of here. That was it. So about about 3 weeks later, and I had, at the time, the dean was very inaccessible. You couldn't really access her. She was always gone. So I just sent a nice email and telling her that I have some things going on in my life that require my immediate attention. So unfortunately, Friday will be my last day. I quit. But after that, I did send her a follow-up email indicating why. Told her everything that happened. But I wanted to do that afterwards. Now, this is how life works, though. This is how life works. About 3 months later, I ended up attending a student success conference out in Sacramento, and I ran into the vice president of student services from that college. And she was immediately taken aback, like, oh my God, yes, I didn't know what was going on, so glad to see you. And she whips out a flyer that says, hey, I'm putting together this diversity, information sessions on campus if you want to attend. No, why would I want to attend there? But that stemmed from me leaving for them to go through that lengths to do that. And it's funny because that same young lady, I was one of the first individuals to participate in her mentor program towards pursuing my doctoral degree. And now she is the interim president over at Valley College. And we see each other. We're cool. I have no issues or anything. She had nothing to do with that. But that just shows you how the cycle of life works. And it's always going to be your attitude and how you deal with it. Now, somebody else, you guys have your different opinions of how you would have approached that situation. But that's just how I chose to do it. Not to be non-confrontational, but I'm just not in the mindset of picking and fighting in spaces where I don't want to be or not want it. Because this is how I look at it. For someone like that young lady who was saying all those things, that's her house. She's going to be there forever. She has no plans of leaving there. Me, I was just a visitor passing through. I had so many other dreams, ambitions, and goals, so I felt no need to go back and forth and pick a fight or stand a chance. And as you can see, the outcome for me was still successful. I still went on to do exactly what it is that I wanted to do. So again, when it comes to diversity and equity in these environments, I think it's important to be mindful and push for more of that. For sure, you can imagine that in most doctoral programs, or in my program, the only African-American male. And every time we're having a topic of discussion when it comes to African-American males and the professor hits you like this. So what do you think, Yancey? Like, I don't know. What do you think I should be thinking, right? Diversity and equity again, right? So I've had a chance to experience all of that on different levels, so I do have a deeper understanding of what that looks like and the impact that it has on us, especially in our career trajectories. Now, if this is me experiencing this, I haven't yet to dive and experience what a student sees on their end, but I could just imagine, and I'm hoping that we're on a different pathway towards resolving some of those issues and bringing about more diversity and equity. So as we embark on this emotional journey, reflect on our own paths, our unique journeys, converge and shared and inspired, right? You guys have stories. Every one of you have been through something. You have something special and unique that got you into the space that you're in right now. And I'm pretty sure we can all agree that education played a vital role in our lives, because if so, we wouldn't all be sitting right here right now, right? We can all agree the importance and the impact that education has on our lives, what it does, how it can change our lives, what it feeds you when you get that right type of, not the right type of information, any type of information, for that fact that you were not aware of prior, right? The knowledge that you build, the wisdom that you gain throughout time, all based on your experience. Education, whether informal or formal, what I've learned is extremely valuable. Extremely valuable. So amidst life challenges, again, education does remain a beacon of hope for myself in a future where we all possess the strength to overcome and succeed. Now, after everything that I've just shared with you guys, regardless of my life story up until this point, I still had that desire to overcome those challenges and succeed. Most recently, in releasing my book, I had a conversation with my father, and he apologized to me. He apologized. I had a nice moment too. Wasn't expecting it, but it was funny. He said, "Hey man, when you wrote that book and told me it was coming out, I started telling everybody to go get your book. All the people around in my building was buying it. All of my coworkers. And I just read that book a month later, and I wish I would have never told them to get that book." He said one lady in his building, when he went to renew his lease, that she stopped talking to him. And was like, "Man, you must be a very shitty person." But he told me though, "Man, me and your mom was some really messed up people." We were. And I let my dad know this. Hey, look, definitely. However, in order to grow, it's important that you let people and things go. That's the power of forgiveness. And if I had to put on my dad's shoes or my mom's shoes and look at the world through their eyes at that particular point in time where they were at, I would have responded the same way. That does not mean that I give them a pass. Same thing with my brother. I had already gave him a hug in my mind and forgave him. And we didn't talk to each other for a decade. So when I seen him, it was more than okay. Like, hey, bro, it's all good. 95% of my life is good. They're still dealing with things in their life. The second best thing that happened to me was moving to California. By myself, no family, no nothing. And got away from everybody. They're still in their different spaces trying to figure life out. And I'm telling you, you see these big teeth every day. I'm smiling. I don't have no issues. I don't think life is good. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful, and whatever other positive attribute you choose to add to it. You got to look at life in a whole different perspective. And again, it was education that poured all of that into me, this attitude, this mindset. Never in my life been to see a therapist. I took enough psychology classes, and again, I make that joke about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, having aha moments of never hitting certain milestones, but putting myself in a different space mentally and emotionally to understand that, developing a very, very, very deep level of self-awareness. Hey, if I feel like this and I have these type of thoughts, I know that he or she does, as well as my mom or dad or brother. They just may have a different or difficult time processing it. So with me seeing that, you know what that allows me to do? I can have patience with them. I can have extreme amount of patience. And not only that, I think it's important that I learned along the way to not make myself so accessible to people. To just reach out, call me at a drop of a dime. No, it doesn't work like that. In order to get to this type of space, you got to protect your energy. You got to protect your space. You can't allow people to have so much access to you. You know, where's the young lady who was showing me around? This young lady right here. She was showing me around and introduced herself when we first came in, and we were talking right here. And she was saying something. I was like, hey, if you start complaining, I'm going to walk away from you. And she was like, no, I'm not going to complain. Because this is my mind. Again, I'm not a harsh person in that sense. Like, I just don't like a lot of complaining, right? I don't want to hear it. Like, I think those things tend to pour into you every day when somebody's coming around telling you about how hard life is for them and everything that they're going through. I just can't take a lot of that because I'm of the mindset if there's nothing wrong with you mentally or physically, you can change whatever circumstances you're in. Now, if there's something wrong with you mentally or physically, that's a different story for another time, right? There's different resources and tools in how we approach and deal with people in that manner. But certain relationships, as you go through them, no, some things you shouldn't allow people to have so much access to, which is who you are, right? On a much deeper level, when you're dealing with different things and you're trying to put yourself in a different space. In order to grow, you must let people and things go. That is the power of forgiveness. It is not for them, it is for you. It is for you, solely for you. So, I want to thank you guys. Thank you for being a part of this journey, you know, allowing me to share your space for this last hour or so here. And may my story resonate with you, inspire and change and grow, right? This is something that, you know, we can all do together, we've all been doing together in these community colleges, right? So stay connected with me, of course. Stay connected with my journey for continued inspiration. Share your stories of resilience and success. Here's my contact information here, or you can visit my website, dryancey.com. I do podcasts, put a lot of information up there as well, always doing speaking engagements. So again, please feel free to keep in contact and moving along and sharing the story. So at this time here, I want to answer any questions and engage in a meaningful dialogue with you guys. If you have any, what are your questions for me? Any questions for me? If you guys don't ask a question, I'm just going to stand here and just stare at the whole entire crowd. Just any questions? Okay, I will take that. And thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
One more round of applause, and Dr. Carter will be doing a book signing right after. Thank you again. Gracias. Welcome to Fall 2023. Thank you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Carter. And please join us, Dr. Carter, for the book signing, and feel free to ask him any questions then, and feel free for lunch and a couple more housekeeping.
Just really quick, because I know we're really over. So we pushed the ones that were earlier to 1:10. The 12 o'clock one that I was going to be doing is at 1:10. The 12:40 one, she did go ahead and start, but you do have time to head on over there. But of course, we want you to get some food. The other ones that are supposed to be starting at 1 will still happen at 1:10. So if you did not register, please make sure you stop by and make sure you get checked in so that we get you your credit. And then, so there are several things that are going to happen at the same time today. I understand you might have to make a choice of which one to go to, and totally understand that. So yes, the lunch in the small gym and the book signing, I just want to say thank you. And I'd given a quote to the faculty just yesterday, and I felt it was really apropos to what happened today, but I'm going to read it because it's Emerson, and it says, "For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness." And I just want to thank our guest speaker for spreading that happiness and teaching us a valuable lesson. Thank you, guys.